I've been a fan of this little-known game called Live Alive for the longest time. It grants an experience seriously like no other RPG I've played, and is honestly a timeless game that has stood the test of time. There is an issue that I've had with the game that isn't fully its fault though, and that's just that there isn't too much after the fact. A 20 to 30 hour RPG that could warrant a replay and deeper thought regarding themes, but after that there isn't a whole lot to really get you to come back. Even though I've played through both versions a bunch of times, I struggle to come back because there isn't a whole lot new to experience. When setting out into the wide web, there isn't a whole lot to find either. The game has some beautiful fan art, but with how niche it is, there isn't enough to go around. In my years of being a fan and searching though, I've stumbled upon a couple of fan games. For one, there is a Live Alive randomizer created by Pink Switch, and the game lends itself nicely to a randomizer setting, having a plethora of different characters and skills to make future playthroughs more engaging. However, at the end of the day, it doesn't provide you with a new base experience. The same cannot be said for today's subject, Toho Alive. Toho Alive is a fan game created by Kiko in 2008 that replaces all of the characters with characters from Toho project. What is a Toho? Good question, I have zero clue! Under normal circumstances, I would have never played this fan game, as the most knowledge I had about Toho was that Raisin was a character, and that was it. However, desperate times call for desperate measures. When you have the sort of hyperfixation episodes that I have, playing random-ass fan games is how you satiate your kicks, especially when Live Alive is the only game in the series. Now, even though the premise sounds simple enough, there's some pretty major changes in chapters that makes this an entirely new experience. So much so that I feel I can make an entire video about the game as a whole. So, without further ado, let's get into this game and see what it's all about. Oh, and of course, spoilers for this game and Live Alive. Kind of impossible to get through this without mentioning twists for both games. Now, for all that I've been hyping up about this game, the initial choice is pretty much the exact same as the OG game. You get the choice between 7 different characters to follow their adventure. After you complete the first, you got the other 6 to choose, so on and so forth, until you're done. It offers a non-linear experience, but as choices in the chapters don't affect one another, what path you take is ultimately just for flavor. I would only recommend starting chapters to get you accustomed to the game in the OG, but as this is a fan game, well, you probably already know how to play the game, so just go in any order you want. For this playthrough, I started with the chapter I started with on my first playthrough, Ice Fairy, which replaces the present day chapter. And replace it does, as this chapter follows very closely to how the OG did things. Cirno, our Masaru replacement, wants to become the strongest against Sokyo, and in order to do so, she must face off against 6 different opponents with their own weaknesses and strengths, learning the moves they use on you to make you a well-rounded fighter. However, this chapter not being all that different does give me the opportunity to go over the battle system of Toho Alive. Toho Alive has the same basic battle style as the OG, where you fight on a 7x7 grid. Your moves have different elements, ranges, and charge times, same with your enemy, making every fight play like a puzzle sort of. It's a really cool system that I don't know why isn't used more. There are some added mechanics that are completely new to this game, but I'll mention those when they are brought up. As for the one constant change to this game, at least I don't think it was in the base game, is that attacking enemies from the back increases your damage dealt. This is a mechanic I'm all for, in concept. See, another thing this game does is that almost every single move can be used in any direction. Now, this was true for your characters in the OG, but whenever you do this, you turn in the direction you're actually attacking. You can't whack someone behind you and continue to look away from them. That's not how that works. Enemies had to be facing you to actually hit you depending on their move. This created a lot more enemy variety. A big example of a fight I liked in the OG was with Zaki. Zaki had dangerous long-range attacks, short-range attacks, and an attack that hits you from the back. You could attack him head-on if you had the stats for it, or you could play it safe and realize his only weak spot is his side specifically. This made him insanely dynamic. However, in this game, every single enemy has attacks that hit their sides and back, so defensively there isn't any perks for using up extra turns to get in position. And with how you move anyways, you put yourself in danger of receiving double damage as well. There are ways to maneuver to mitigate this risk, but it's ultimately just awkward. Overall, I'm not the biggest fan of how enemy variety is thrown out of the way, especially for this chapter because, well, I think it's time to get into how this chapter operates. The major difference between Ice Fairy and present day is that Cirno actually gains a level after every fight she wins. This gives her more definitive progress than Masaru had in the OG, but at the same time it kind of ruins the best part about the original present day. Everyone had their own styles for you to exploit, meaning that every fight was possible for you to fight, but were made easier with certain moves you acquired from other opponents. In this game, it feels like if you tried to fight certain opponents first, you're screwed. Everyone on the top row will nearly one-shot you with their moves, and are really hard to just stay out of the way of their dangerous attacks while getting their moves. The first encounter, Hina, straight up did half of my HP. I went to heal, but just hit me again before it could go off, making me lose. And then this random weirdo comes up to my mangled corpse and says, "It's all about positioning, my guy," when any positioning would allow me to get two-shot. The second person is named Medicine? Oh, okay, I get it, because she poisons you. Yeah, so anyways, that poison added in with poison tiles and moves that nearly one-shot you, again, makes her a no-go. Dude, shut up. This battle system does not lend itself well to completely avoiding attacks. This is more so based on the SNES release of Live Alive and not the modern release because, well, duh. But in that version, enemies only had a big delay to turns after they attack. So let's say they walk into a range where they could kill you instantly with a move. You either sit there and take it, or walk backwards, where they will walk with you before you can do anything else. And this makes you get cornered and die anyway. That made present day a bit frustrating on the SNES original, but very doable in any order you wanted. In this game, you have to get incredibly lucky to do things out of order. Enough mucking around though, I know that you practically have to start with the very last opponent, Letty, to stand a single chance. Even then, she can sometimes make you fall asleep and kill you instantly. So that's unfun. However, this fight has an interesting detail about it. The sixth fight in the OG was with this guy named Jackie Aokea, and through either using certain moves or getting insanely lucky, he would actually use a secret move called Worldbreaker's Wrath, in which Masaru would learn it along with the usual 2 you get from him normally. In this fight against Letty, once you used one of her moves she gives you, White Mute, you actually hit someone off screen where she proceeds to snowgrave this random person and gains you access to a secret move, Absolute Zero. And it's god-awful. It has such a large charge time that, as a move, all it does is just kill you. After winning, we go on to the next fight, Suika. Okay, so our next fight is Seishi Moribe, who is definitively not a Toho character, but the only OG fighter to make a return. He pretty much functions the same way, except that you miss your shots if you don't hit him in the back. Once you realize this, you can keep Suda as a move, which is usually your best move as it debuffs the enemy after you hit. And yes, Cirno's best move is one of the 2 that isn't exclusive to her. Yippee! At this point, the fights start snowballing, so I deal with Hina next, who becomes a lot easier now that we have inflated stats. Hina does give us some nice moves though, like this attack that hits everyone and puts water tiles on the ground. These tiles heal Cirno, which is really cool. We have enough power to deal with Suika, then Medicine, then for the final opponent I haven't talked about yet, Yuka. I didn't mention her before because she's easily the toughest opponent here. Her damage output is straight up insane and can hit you anywhere. She's downright unfair. You practically have to save her for the final fight, especially when she can spam a move that brings you down to 1 HP. Really cool concept, but you better hope you don't get destroyed immediately afterwards because your healing move has a charge. But now that we're done with those 6 guys, we have the final fight with Signature Select Odie O'Bright. Odie's name is dumb, but at least he comes up to you and says he killed those 6 guys. Gungrade Jabal kinda says he'll kill you. Cirno has the same thing where she goes over the guys she defeated, which is a lot lamer when they haven't been killed, and we get our final boss. He at least looks pretty cool and is decently strong. I would recommend using Snowdown immediately to get water tiles down, and then go after stat buffs and debuffs. Once you're in a good position to consistently hit your shots, get into a good position and use Asabe Giri to turn him around, and after enough of the beating, he's taken out. The ending is kinda neat though, as the original Masaru challenges Cirno before the chapter ends. Every chapter has a nod to the original protagonist, which is pretty cool. Either way, that was Ice Fairy, and yeah, it was a tiny bit disappointing. Cool to see a slightly new spin on it, but it just wasn't that satisfying. Hopefully the next chapter will satiate my appetite for something new. So if you thought Ice Fairy was way too closely tied to the present day, Gatekeeper will be a very pleasant surprise. Gatekeeper is based on the Imperial China chapter and follows the character of Hong Mei Ling. She's, well, a gatekeeper that lost her skills as a martial artist. This is reinforced by a forced loss fight with some random witch who I'm sure will never be important. After the loss, Mei Ling's master sends her off until she can make herself powerful again. This opening is completely unique to the chapter, and the chapter continues to be unique itself. We have a world map. Look at this! It's so damn beautiful! You hardly got something like this in the original game, and here we are just plopping it into the Imperial China chapter. After a trip, Mei Ling finds a competent martial artist named Kassen, and wants to train under her. She accepts, and we begin our training arc. Unlike the original, where you're a waning old master teaching 3 new students, you're one person undergoing training. You get the option between 3 separate places to train, which boost specific stats. Do you want to completely focus on your survivability? Your pure offense? Perhaps focus on your speed? Something in between? The choice is all yours. Once you realize the twist in the original, you want to just hyper-focus on the student you want to inherit your skills. But with this game, it keeps the replayability through what you want Mei Ling to do. Of course, you still have to fight certain enemies for these buffs, including the mailman, some random void person, or this literal child. Yes, you beat up a child for stat buffs in this chapter. What's that? Look up the age. I hardly see why that would be... Oh god, Toho is one of those series, isn't it? Questionable realizations aside, interspersed with your training, you get flashbacks to lessons and interactions she had with her previous master. You ain't Zhou? Yeah, so the reference to the OG this time around is Mei Ling's master just being Yuing Zhou. Which I guess makes the canon of this fan game that Yuing Zhou inherited the title of Earthen Heart Master. Not a bad choice, but I always go for Lei Kugo just because of diversity and personality. You do actually learn some moves that Yuing Zhou uses, so that makes Mei Ling easily the most unoriginal character in the game. Don't want to be mean, that's just how it is. This chapter also has some nice character moments between Mei Ling and Kassen that build up to something rather nice later. Either way, after your training is done, we get a mention of a kidnapping going on. In the original, this is where the twist that your 2 weakest students will be killed, but in this game, it's just set up to the end. We have a unique fight and save this random kid. Oh, and some birds. If you visit these birds afterwards, you get some random key. I'm sure that won't be important. Either way, we learn that the Scarlet Devil Mansion, the place that Mei Ling was gatekeeping for before, is under attack by vampires, so now it's time for Mei Ling to prove how much she's improved by saving her master. And prove she does, as with how much training she's done, she's able to hold her own against these jokesters no problem. Of course, we have a problem with that key. In this chapter, there's actually a super boss where there wasn't one before, and it's weird. See, after beating up that weird rabbit child, you get this charm. You need to equip that charm specifically on Kassen, or this random girl will use a move to instantly wipe your party. Afterwards, she turns into 4 different versions where you need to hit the real one. Which one's the real one? I don't know. I didn't have to find the pattern to that. See, whenever you hit the real one, or 3 of the fake ones, she does the move again and just refreshes the 4. But now that the move almost does nothing, all you really do this fight is just continue to mindlessly attack until they're dead. It's a cool concept, but the execution is way past lackluster. It also just takes forever. Thankfully, the super boss gives us something super cool for our troubles and a unique accessories that boosts all of our stats significantly. Now that the super boss is done with, we continue through the rest of the chapter and meet up with the head vampire attacking our master, but not before a genuinely cool scene where Kassen holds off an army while telling us to go after our destiny. She tells Mei Ling that she's actually pretty piss poor at martial arts, and that all she taught Mei Ling was a crock of shit. But that Mei Ling has managed to grow this strong just because she was always strong. She just needed to remember her reason to be strong. It's a really cool character dynamic that I haven't seen before. But enough about that, we got a vampire to kick the ass of. But not before remembering the ultimate move that Yu and Zhou left Mei Ling, Heavenly Peak's Descent. Yeah, for all my praising this chapter, it kind of ends exactly the same way the OG did. You get this super awesome powerful move for one time against this boss named Jihad. It does so much damage that after you just need to bop him on the head a few times. Does he have any moves? Who knows, he's dead. Once the fight is over, you knock his ass through a chair just like the OG, though that was your master's chair, so that's awkward. And he accidentally hits himself with his cross, turning him to dust. Doubly awkward. After that, Mei Ling is back on Gatekeeper duty and is able to spar with Marissa as much as she wants, ending the Gatekeeper chapter. And wow, this was such a pleasant surprise after the first one stuck so close to home. It was so cool to see a new spin on the chapter with a new story attached to it as well. Honestly, this could be one of the best fan games created if it just keeps up this momentum. And keep up this momentum, it kind of does. I'm not going to blame the Wild West chapter because the original Wild West chapter wasn't anything that special either. Like, it was cool, but super short. This chapter on this playthrough only took 40 minutes, while every other one at least goes on for an hour. Likely longer. In the original Wild West chapter, you played as an outlaw named Sundown, where you get caught up in protecting a quaint town from a raid. In this chapter, you protect the town once more, but instead you're an amnesiac kitsune with a gun. From what I can tell, Fox, real name is Ran if you know your lore, is the most aesthetically different from their original character in Toho. Even then, it just seems like she has a poncho over her clothes, which, hey, looks good, I'll admit. Continuing on to the story, you fight some ruffians on the road, get to a town, and randomly this guy wants to shoot us. We shoot him back, get a room, he comes back and sees Fox naked. Classic anime gags, yippee. In the middle of the night, both Fox and this guy named James gets ambushed in the middle of the night. We find out that they are ghouls from this gang led by Ray Genova. No, not that Genova. They're planning to raid this place, so we gotta protect them. In the original, yes, I know I say this a lot, get used to it, US Sundown, partnered with Mad Dog, had to gather supplies, make the townsfolk set up traps, and face off against the enemy gang in one last showdown. In this game specifically, you face off against 6 different waves of enemies. You get to gather supplies, but only a certain amount between each wave. You then give these to the citizens and they utilize them while in battle to make them easier on you. It's a nice spin, but also takes away from the vibes of the original where you felt like you were strict on time, trying to manage it as best as you could. With that said, it's still a cool way to think about using the items you get throughout the chapter. What items do I use for the first few waves? What do I save for later? You get to ask yourself these questions throughout the 6 waves, and it's pretty neato, if not super well realized. You can also find posters of Sundown, so there's your reference. Once you're done with those waves though, you face off against Ray and her Gatling gun! And yes, her Gatling gun kills you in one shot just like Odio. She's a tough one for sure, but Fox's leg snipe can lock her in place, so that's what you want to prioritize against her. It's a fun fight for sure, and afterwards you have another duel with James wanting you to take his bounty and... Okay, I want to like James because he's like one of the few guys in the game, but he's just... not likable? Your first impression of him is that he shoots people out of nowhere just for existing. Has that classic anime moment, says he's fallen for her, and he didn't recognize her as a girl at first. Now why would a guy not think a woman was a guy? I'll give you a hint, there aren't femboys in the Wild West. So yeah, this guy is pretty damn uncomfortable. And at the end, they try to make him seem sympathizable by offering Fox a master in his niece. And since he has a bounty on him, he wants you to take it. It just doesn't work with how much of an asshat and weirdo this guy was. Whatever, we shoot down James because he can't run from this fight. Maybe he can die to this guy, I didn't try. And we go on the road again. Again, it's a short chapter, and it didn't change a super lot, but it at least changed enough to be kinda cool. I'm sure that the next chapter will be pretty different and cool. Right? Yeah, okay, so now we have the Wild chapter, which is based on the prehistory chapter. We are in control of Ponga, this weird... Kadama? God, what the hell is Toho, seriously? Anyways, we control this little fella along with their non-verbal pal, and go onto the wilderness to collect meat for our tribe. And then a rival tribe invades, wanting a girl that this fellow falls in love with, and... This is just the prehistory chapter. And I don't mean like based on it like how the previous 3 chapters are, as in this is literally the same plot. Let me get you a side-by-side. Young main character, sidekick, coming of age, starts hunting for their tribe, goes to bed after a good day's work, wakes up to see Buddy is gone, goes out looking for Buddy, finds a girl and falls in love. Oh hey, there's Pogo. Enemy tribe comes, fight to keep her. Gets thrown out of his current tribe. The lady that the MC loves is awful in a fight. Camp out in cave. Dream about making out session. Girl gets kidnapped. Second fight with rival. Chases after. Invade enemy tribe. Main character destroys best friend for finding love when they're finding love as well because God forbid the buddy have a life too. The only difference is that you don't fall down a hole in this version, and then the ending, which I'll admit is one of the coolest set pieces in the game, but we'll get to that later. You got the crafting mechanic that I didn't make the most of because details on this game isn't very common, but it definitely makes you stronger, so that's neat. This chapter also introduces a few pretty cool things though. For instance, Bibi, our eyeball friend, has a laser attack. It hits everything in a straight line to its left or right, which is pretty cool and unique. Oh, also Ponga can blow themselves up. That's hilarious. There's this, monster hunter enemy? Okay, that's funny, but this guy does way too much damage. He's like the only thing I didn't bother taking down for this playthrough. Anything else? Anything else? You don't get an equivalent to the Rock of Rocks in this chapter, but you still have a super boss against the... War Mech? I thought we were in prehistory times, what the... The boss theme is pretty cool for this guy, even if I got baited into thinking it was Shadow Heart's music. He's similar to the King Mammoth, but thankfully does not have a ridiculous amount of healing like he did with Fire Tiles. Instead, the initial attack gives us radiation poisoning! Yippee! This not only drains our HP, but our max HP as well, giving us a strict time limit for the fight. It makes the fight pretty damn frantic and fun, honestly. I'm a huge fan of it. What I wasn't a fan of was hunting it for an hour. That was dumb. Either way, with that guy out of the way and a great piece of equipment acquired, we fight the boss of the chapter... A giant dragon! On top of a flock of birds as our platform? Okay, for my gripes on this chapter, this is an absolutely incredible set piece. He's a pretty tough fight too, and would have been a problem if I didn't level up a bunch for the super boss. Either way, the ending is the exact same afterwards. Good on this cute little creature. Okay, so this chapter was disappointing, but 2 out of 4 isn't super bad. I'm certain that the next chapter will be great. This is the worst chapter in the whole game. No hyperbole when I say this is straight up a poor knockoff of the Distant Future chapter. It's named Return here, and instead of Cube we get this little Shangle doll named Shang. Very original. They at least poke fun at it. Our creator's name is Alice, and we are on board a ship headed back to Earth after some moon operation or something. We get introduced to the crew of the ship with Sinai, Wriggle, Mistia, and... Oh hey, it's Raisin! The one character I know! And she's starting off a bit prickish, so she's an obvious replacement for Darth, my favorite character from the OG chapter. I can't wait to see what they do with her. Either way, I should mention that the structure of this chapter is very similar to the original, just like how Wild was for prehistory. But that's not to say it's one-to-one. Events may play out similarly, but there are quite a few differences everywhere. Of course, Earth is replaced with Gensokyo, our crew members are different, and honestly have worse personalities. These guys are nowhere near as memorable as the original crew, and the story does play out a little differently. We have the usual meeting where the captain barely says shit. Raisin is a racist to... dolls? Okay. And then we have free reign to explore. We get to learn about the ship and the world we're going to, all things that happen in the OG. But once the first accident happens, that's when things switch up. In the original, Kirk goes outside the ship to check out on something. His suit malfunctions and he dies from lack of oxygen. Tragic stuff. In this game, Mistia gets trapped inside a flaming room and dies from carbon monoxide. Tragic stuff. Either way, we later see that the body has disappeared. Well, I'm sure that the Rachel equivalent still has her in her... Oh no, never mind. In fact, one of the characters actually makes fun of this original plot point. And the reason they went missing this time was because she turned into a zombie. And then immediately shanks an eye. Yeah, so instead of the behemoth being the problem to look out for, you get zombies of the people who die. Oh, also the captain is dead. Thinking that the person doing all this stuff is still on the ship, Wriggle goes to the weapons room to get some self-defense, but dies by tripping. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's just because she tripped and then got hurt by one of the zombies, but with how it's written, it seems like she just fatally injured herself from tripping, which is hilarious. So yeah, the other crew members died, and they really just don't hit as hard as the original. I can't really tell you anything about these guys. Meanwhile, the original crew had such an interesting connection between most members that when someone died, you can tell exactly how it would affect the others. Meanwhile, we don't really get to know any of these guys before things go down, so the deaths don't mean a whole lot. Also, the tripping death over weapons is a lot weaker than Huey going out to attempt to rescue Rachel, only to get destroyed by a behemoth. There's some really good commentary in the original that this one is missing, or that I just don't see. You may have noticed that I haven't said much about our main character, Shang, and that's just because she's Cube again. Cube was a simple character, robot learning about human things, but through the tragic events sees the negative side of humanity firsthand, but despite that still tries its best to keep everything together, and they even learn how to make coffee! Shang, on the other hand, doesn't get that cool view on humanity that Cube did, but otherwise is about the same. She learns how to make tea instead though, so that's cool. Oh, and there could be something to read into about the only books on the shelf she goes through is about kappas and slang. Anyways, back to the main plot. Alice and Raisin have a conversation about who could cause this sort of thing, with Raisin saying that it obviously can't be her. I mean, okay. Darth saying that made sense as he was just a guest on the spaceship, and even though you felt like something was off about him, he was right in that he really didn't have a motive. Raisin kinda just says, "Trust me, bro." Whatever, we continue onwards and find out... Wait, it was Raisin the whole time? Guess she's just a villain here. That's a fine enough twist. Wait, no, it was just the computer that told her to do it. And this is what makes me really hate Raisin in this chapter, because she's drop dead stupid. See, the reason why Raisin started doing this shit was because she thought that her fellow Moon Rabbit people told her to kill everyone on the ship. Alice mentions, hey, if they wanted to do that, wouldn't they communicate to you through their ears instead of through the ship's messaging system? In which my first thought was, what the hell, they can do that? And then my second thought was, what? You could do that the whole time? When Alice says that, who isn't even a rabbit person, this must be pretty common knowledge, right? It would be like if you got a message from your grandma on your email telling you to kill everyone, when your grandma doesn't even know what an email is. How are you this brain dead, Raisin? How did you, a moon person, not realize how your people would have contacted you when this random-ass doll maker did? Whatever, she goes Edo Blay about shooting Alice with a goddamn shotgun, and works with Shang to kill this computer. But first of all, it's time for side content! You didn't think you could escape this, did you? Yeah, in the original you could play this arcade game called Captain Square, don't laugh, where you go through 8 or so stages of enemy formations. You don't get healing items and you gotta think through the best solution for the fight. In this game, we get a reference in the form of a new arcade game, Working Cube! Yeah, Cube's reference in this form is an arcade machine, which is pretty cool. And the puzzles themselves are pretty well thought out and kinda fun. It's a nice little distraction until we find the equivalent of this game's memory card, an option for hard mode. 7 more stages, all at a much harder difficulty. And yeah, some of these can be pretty damn difficult. I was stuck on the second to last one for the longest time trying to figure it out, but it didn't take me too terribly long, and it was pretty fun. But then we get to the final stage on hard mode, and this is where things start going sour. I tried this puzzle so many times. It's deceptively difficult. Every time I went through, I tried something a little different, but felt like I was making no progress. Then I felt like I was finally getting somewhere, only for me to realize that I was going about it completely wrong. After 2 whole hours of attempts, I just looked up a guide and realized I just made a mistake super early on in the puzzle. And this shit was so frustrating. But you know what? It still didn't piss me off as much as Raisin did in this chapter. After getting nothing for our troubles but a migraine, we continue on and try to hack into the ship through a laptop, and fight this chapter boss in easycom. Throughout the chapter, we keep hearing this phrase, "take it easy," and then we get the blue screen of death saying this is what happens when you take things easy. Drop dead easy. So is this a commentary on sloth or something? And I don't even know. We got a boss to fight and it's actually pretty good outside of one thing. It's split up into phases, where in the first you need to take out its 2 support units before you can actually attack it yourself. The game doesn't make things drag out too long like the original Distant Future fight did. You only need to take out 2 instead of 8. Then it turns into this Toho character's enlarged head, I guess? Definitely bizarre, but Shang here deals a lot in tile damage, being able to inflict multiple different types of tile damage. So our strategy is to stay out of range of dangerous attacks, and let this damage whittle it down. Then we finish it off and finally— Sweet Jesus, what is that? Okay, after that scare, we got the final phase. And it starts out with a move Carnage that nearly kills us in one shot. Oh, but that's fine, we'll heal it up and— oh, it one-shotted us this time. So yeah, this boss loves spamming this move at the end, and if you're unlucky, it can one-shot you. You don't have any party members with you to heal you afterwards, and no way to grind levels since 1, you're a doll, and 2, there is no way to gain experience anyways. So yeah, you kinda just have to accept bad RNG in this fight, and that sucks. Otherwise, it's a really cool fight. Anyways, in the second attempt we take it down, listen to Raisin's rehashed backstory, and then get her final stinger, which completely misses the point of the original story's ending. Man, what a train wreck. To a mystery that plays things too close to home, to characters that I don't care about, this chapter is kinda just really boring to go through. When your story-focused chapter does not have a good story, it's hard to like it at all. The boss and minigame was cool, but that's all I can really give it. Okay, I'm positive, this time for sure, that things can't get worse. Right? And you know what? They don't. We finally get back on track with the Hourai chapter? Oh, hold on, let me just look it up, and it's the name of another doll made from Alice? This chapter doesn't even have any of those things. Whatever, weird naming aside, this is based on the Near Future chapter, which was a personal favorite of mine in the OG. But yeah, this chapter finally steps things back up. We start with reused dialogue between Sundown and Mad Dog, but instead with these characters, Mikao and Kaguya. Hey, if Live Alive had guys being gay with each other, Toho Alive can have it with the ladies. It's only fair. Either way, this fight gets interrupted with— oh. Anyways, Mikao then has a significantly less cool version of Matsu's takoyaki introduction, and yeah, this chapter is looking to be a bit more of the same. Instead of going back home to an orphanage, in this version of events, we take this girl back to an orphanage and get hired as detectives to find out why there have been so many kidnappings lately. I appreciate this because, for as much as I love the Near Future chapter, it definitely had some major pacing issues. But the story doesn't matter because we listen to the TV and find out something cool about the forest, a hidden area to visit in the first few minutes of the chapter. This can only go so well for us. We find the hidden area and we get these things who only say take it easy. That's it, I'm looking it up. What's the significance in this? Oh, I see, it's a meme. Oh wait, the digital boss in the Return chapter is just a stupid ass meme? That's honestly kinda clever and cool. As for why these things are here, I have no idea. We explore a little, hear some rumblings, and oh well, I guess the meme died. We go to the bottom and find a chimera. Have you ever wanted to fight a chimera in Mother 3? That's how it would go. Okay, yeah, so I may or may not have accidentally stumbled upon a super boss and saved at the point of no return. I was admittedly super scared because I had not leveled up at all. I didn't have good equipment and I didn't have that many healing items. Thankfully the chimera isn't that bad. Sure, it one-shots you, but it only has that one move. And Kaguya here has a healing move. That's her purpose in life, really. Meanwhile, Mikao is sort of like Cernel, but instead of ice, she loves fire. That includes fire tiles. It's not a lot, but through keeping Kaguya out of line of sight, and having Mikao spam attacks, I'm actually able to have an easy time. Not drop dead easy, because the Chimera will move sometimes, and once it hits Kaguya, I only have a limited amount of healing items to bring her back. This caused me to lose my first attempt, but after a 15-minute second attempt, I was able to beat him and get an accessory for my reward. Just straight up increasing my offenses. Fighting super bosses at the lowest level possible. Man, someone should make a video about that. Alright. Kinda funny how I accidentally did that with this guy. Either way, we continue our investigation and find out that one of the orphan's pet... Oh no, not these guys again! Anyways, just like Toroimo in the OG, we liquefy this walking head thing and transfer its soul into a robot host. Now we have YDMT4. And just to make sure, I looked up this thing as well. Nothing to note. Anyways, this thing kinda sucks, as it only gets 3 moves, 2 of which suck, and it never levels up. Your third skill can be different depending on what accessory you get, but I never got anything besides the missile launch, which did okay damage, I guess. We find out that the doctor that did the liquefying has a gigantic mech. Alright. We also visit this person in the woods who has some distant future looking tech. Alright, but she seems to be good friends with Kaguya. That's nice. But we haven't really gotten any new information. So instead we go back to the orphanage. This orphan wants to give us something and... God damn it, not again. Whatever, it makes for a nice hat. And then one of the orphans is getting kidnapped again. We go through a fight, steal this guy's bike, and then find the kidnappers in the forest. We actually go through a couple of really hard fights because I'm not properly leveled, but manage to skirt by the skin of our teeth. This is when we find out that this gang who's been kidnapping people are... Rabbit people! I knew I couldn't trust them! But no, as it turns out, these rabbits have been turned into mindless slaves via a drug made by Kaguya's friend. She seems to know a lot about these side effects and how incredibly messed up it is, so obviously this buddy isn't good after all. Kaguya tries to imagine that she isn't, but like, why would she make a slave-making drug in the first place? Whatever, we head back to the lab and we actually get a completely new set piece. This part of the game is actually super awesome. Of course, the normal enemy encounters aren't too bad because this chapter keeps the breakdown mechanic from the near future chapter. That being that if you kill the leader, then the rest of the enemies disperse. But this is still a super cool dungeon to go through. We have to go through different floors looking for specific key cards to be able to continue, where we eventually fight this researcher girl named Rikako. I take her out by just focusing on her, and while her mechs do hurt, she's not very noteworthy. Trust me, there's nothing else to her. I promise. We then get to this place that kinda looks like the Sylph Cave from Final Fantasy IV if you played that game, and fight this Ant King guy. He has a lot of HP but is super vulnerable to fire, so we blast through him and... Oh. Oh my. This is, kinda disturbing actually. The near future had a disturbing aspect to it, but these guys are literally being drained while feeling super good. That sounded a lot better in my head, but that's honestly a horrifying feeling to think about. Feeling like you're slowly dying, yet at the same time it feels like complete bliss. And then it's ruined by one of these guys talking about that stupid-ass pushable drum. So close, game. So close. I'm sure all of the bad stuff is behind us, though. Mikao finds some tasty meat in the next room, and then the room after that... Okay, so Mikao just straight up accidentally ate people. God, this game is messed up. Oh hey, what a cute little robot. Okay, so after all that silliness, we get our third and final key card. Wait, third? But this is the fourth in a sequence. Oh, that's fine, it's not like we needed it or anything. Using deduction, i.e. looking up the answer, I used the codes given by the keycards to open up this teleporter and... Wait, what? I need to insert the keycards here? What? Why? You let me gain access to this room through a code gotten from the keycards, without the need of the keycards. Oh well, that's fine, I'll just look up how to get the one I missed. Oh god damn it. Okay, so I needed to kill the 3 mechs before that one lady we fought earlier. I straight up can't do this optional content now. Or can I? So I decided to play through the entire game again to... Okay, no. I wouldn't do such a thing. I got better things to do with my life than that. So all I did was actually just create a new save file, played only this chapter, and got to this point again. Would I be able to keep the reward? Nope, I just wanted to show off the fight. And so we use all of the keycards and fight another super boss. Yep, this chapter gives us 2. Cool, huh? Anyways, we got another lame one. Only Kaguya can do damage against the thing, so I just have her spam attacks while Mikao takes all the damage. That's really all the fight was. Oh, this wasn't worth it at all. Continuing the story, we fight off against this mecha soldier, have the exact same story beat where it was Watanabe's father or something, and then we retreat. Alright, the main villain was there too, and now he's turning on Kaguya's buddy or something. I don't know, it was everything but the villains that makes this chapter cool. Anyways, Mikao comes back and saves the day, so she gets to live or something. We then have our cute little meme mecha asked to sacrifice itself to pilot the giant robot, just like Akira's sister did in the original Near Future chapter. Now, I'm of two minds on this. On one hand, I don't care nearly enough about this head creature as I did Akira's own sister, so the moment did not hit, at all. But I will also give credit where credit is due. It does the deed and liquefies the head. Again. In the OG, they just got Matsu drunk to kickstart the giant robot. And now we have our giant robot fight just like the original. Kind of. It's all automated, so you don't get to control the robot. Lame. Anyways, we start fighting this thing. God, why is this chapter so weird? Our attacks aren't working on it though, so we have to send a pod straight into the core for Mikao and Kaguya to take care of it. Kaguya starts doing her part and the place closes down. With nowhere to go, Kaguya dies trying to protect the town and her lover-not-lover Mikao. Though, of course, we aren't done on our side. It's time to take care of... what was his name again? Sindleman. Oh, dude, you're lame. Anyways, this guy can actually give you some trouble if you're not careful. His attacks do a fair amount of damage to you, so you have to be pretty careful with your approach. Thankfully, Mikao is able to be as cautious as she needs to be with fire tile damage and healing. Utilize that and heal up anytime you need to, and the fight should be yours. Anyways, we have a similar ending to how the OG ended with Mikao being in a tough spot, but then just waking up as if it was all a dream or something. Yeah, it just doesn't do as well as the original did with its vague ending. I don't think the OG did it amazingly or something, but there's enough inferring to how Akira got out. Well, this final shot of Mikao is awesome at least. And that's it for the Hourai chapter. After the game got kinda crappy, not gonna lie, this was such a pleasant surprise. I really loved the original aspects of this chapter, and while the stuff it takes from the near future was pretty jarring, it was overall a really nice chapter. Oh right, the Akira reference. Here, have a Toroyama plush instead. And now for the final chapter, at least for my playthrough, Netherworld. This is the replacement for the Edo Japan chapter. In the original, Aboromaru was sent to Ode-Io's castle to rescue a prisoner. As for this chapter, hell has broken loose and demons have invaded this area. Or something. We need to kill this guy named Jiro, and possibly rescue some person named Yuyuko. She's important or something. And so, katana in hand, okay, with this lady's katana in hand, we head off to save Gensokyo. Now, the original was a bit of an inspiration to popular indie game Undertale. You might have heard of it or something. It was one of the first games to try out different routes based on how many people you killed, with you getting a super special prize for not killing a single person. With an asterisk, because the rules make no sense sometimes, and that's something you only get after you've beaten the boss, so yeah. Still a really cool idea, but the original suffered from being incredibly cryptic with how you achieve pacifist. Like, you saving someone too early gets 8 people killed kinda cryptic. So I was a little afraid to get into this chapter because I was expecting a whole bunch of different tricks to be played on me to make me absolutely hate life. But actually, most of the tricks the game plays on you just comes from the original anyways. like that saving someone earlier leading to deaths I mentioned before. We have similar traps and similar general layouts. Attic area in the first place that puts in a super speedy guy, warehouses you need storage keys for. Funnily enough, you don't get the prison key from the storage houses though. So yeah, if you're expecting any sort of beginner's traps, don't expect them here. Instead, what I can discuss is the music. I'm shocked how long it took me to mention it, but yeah, this game has complete remixes of almost every song. The only songs untouched being Alive Alive and Megalomania because, like, duh. Either way, the rest of the OST is mixes between Alive Alive songs and Toho songs. I know this because I recognized a few amount of songs from Toho. Yeah, so I lied. I know Raisin and a few of the more iconic songs like Romelia Scarlet's theme. And so I know that most of these are remixes, just, well, actually, I guess I don't know for certain. I only recognized a few. I'm going to have good faith in Toho Alive that it uses Toho music. I say that mainly because I really like the music in the Edo Japan chapter, and Netherworld gives us something a little different compared to that. It was the most noticeable in this chapter, so that's why I bring it up here. No other reason. Either way, since there isn't much of a story from here on, I'll mainly just go over my reactions to all of the little things in the chapter. These kimono girls are super fast for some reason, so avoiding them is a bit of a pain. What's also a pain is this little corridor right here. You have to be super patient with your invisibility to get through this without running into anyone. Oh, and this chapter loves to give you enemies you can't run from. Or hell, sometimes when you run the room completely resets, so you can just spawn right on top of an enemy again. Yeah, it's really annoying, so I would suggest having multiple save slots for this. Oh yeah, there's also this guy who's selling illegal bananas. Alright. Not much else happens at the ground floor, and so now we get this. It's like the conveyor belt section, but bigger. There aren't too many ways to go, so it isn't too complicated, but I did fall down here. You get a neat sequence where you get ketchup and you can either disguise yourself as a dead body and kill the bodyguard, or give it to him and nearly kill him because the stuff is ancient. Fun stuff. Anyways, I loaded my save and continued. We continued to avoid enemies until we... Oh, Lord. So, if you touch these things, they immediately throw you down into the cell again. And unfortunately for us, we cannot use our rope and hook set to get to the other side. So I guess I would just have to find another way around it. Oh. What? Wait, hold on. Let me try that again. Oh, wow. So I guess I can just skip these holes? It works the other way around too, so, huh. After finding that game-shattering glitch, we continue and fight this guy. I didn't grind a whole lot of levels on this chapter, so this guy was a little challenging. What my game plan was to utilize items, specifically fire tile items, so that I could try to stay out of range while continuous damage took them out. It took a little while, but after a few tries, I managed to take this guy out and got some free Koban. In the original, you would use these things to get the secret character, O-Robo, to bypass 3 kills. In this game, you start fighting Hayate? Barumaru's ninja buddy? That's kinda cool, actually. It marks the second and only other male to join you in the party. Which you may think is outrageous, but fair is fair, the original only had 2 playable ladies. So yeah, he joins you and he's pretty damn good. He'll be very handy. Either way, I do the cloak glitch over this pit and find out that there's a secret healing item down here with infinite uses. Nice. We then fight this giant samurai guy, but with Hayate, we kinda just blow right through him. We then find the person we were meant to save, Yuyuko. How did she get out? Simple. She ate through the damn prison bars! That's metal as shit, dude. And now that we fought this other random guy, it was time. For super bosses! I didn't even bother grinding because I figured Hayate and Yuyuko would be strong enough that Yumo, being so low leveled, wouldn't matter. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this girl's name is Yumo. We find this hidden room with a really cool sword and get challenged by our ancestor. They have the same surname as Yumo, so I guess that's what this is, right? Either way, we sick Hayate on him and get a cool sword. We then fight the Sigma male gamer, and he's kinda annoying. He uses this move that completely shackles your legs so you can't move. So anyways, we sick Hayate on him, and get this cool accessory! Either way, it's time to finish this chapter. Oh yeah, it's a Boromaru! Oh, and there goes Hayate. Thanks for the carry, bestie. Now it's time to finish this chapter. We have the first fight with Jiro here. Anyways, my Yumo still isn't the most leveled, so even with the new equipment she got, I'm sure she won't even... Oh dear god! Okay, maybe the second phase will be harder. Yeah, this will be, So after 2 of these, we kinda just... win. Well, that's anticlimactic. So we saved the world or something, got a cool sword or something, and that's the end of the chapter. And by proxy, Toho alive. While it had some cool ideas here and there, it ultimately didn't do quite enough to differentiate itself from the original. Some of the chapters were super unique and awesome, while the rest were pretty derivative and missed some of the magic of what made the original Live Alive a classic. And so, at the end of the day, this game... Oh. Yeah, so, like the original Live Alive, there is a secret 8th chapter. And that, my friends, is something we'll tackle next time. Join me for when we go through the fantasy chapter, and see what Toho Alive can truly deliver. Take it easy.